Hello, dear viewers. Welcome to our talk, a place where agree to disagree, if we disagree at all. And today, um, our guests are myself, Ina Uppert, René Feltley, and Adriano Fetizo. Um, welcome everyone. Hello, René. Hello, Adriano.
Hello.
How are you? Well, first, I would like to thank Renee for inviting me to the team Art Talk. Um, I would say that for more than 2 years, I've been following and supporting the project, meeting new people, discovering new spaces and areas of knowledge, and constantly learning. So that's why it's been an honor for me to host this Art Talk and and to be with you. It's a chance, to meet the two of you. Um, so I think first I would like to introduce my guests, um, and of course, if you want to add something or correct me, so please do. Um, Renee Föckli, we'll start with you. Renee is a full-time Reiki master teacher since 1992. Before that, he worked as a commodity trader, and he has lived in Europe, Africa, and Asia. Together with his wife, Misha Föckli Eglov, they run Reiki International, giving Reiki classes and traditional master teacher and training master teachers globally. And today, they live in Switzerland and Greece and have two sons and a grandson, right?
Yes.
Renee has been a founder of and a member of in committees of exclusive and inclusive Reiki organizations, and he's the source of Reiki Conciliation, focusing on reconciliation within the Reiki community. And his projects can be observed on reikiconciliation.org. Um, I have met Renee in one of these projects. I used to work as part of the R Circle team who were doing the translations for the interviews with the Phyllis Lei Furumoto, which is called 66 Steps on the Path to Reconciliation. So that's where I met actually both Renee and Adriano. And since then, it's been really an exciting and nourishing journey for me. So, hello, Renee.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for hosting.
And my first question is, how does it feel, Renee, being a guest in the Art Talk?
And it feels good. I didn't have to prepare as much as normally when I host, but I feel also a little bit awkward because Adriano isn't introduced. I don't want to speak before Adriano has.
All right.
No, that's okay.
No, you're right. That's not. I would like to introduce Adriano as well. Um, Adriano is a freelance designer who is known and worked with Renee for many years. In the beginning, Adriano was a creator of a Vimeo project for the interviews with Phyllis Lei Furumoto. And 6 years ago, he helped found the Reiki Conciliation project, where he took over the technical direction, designed and programmed the website, and is responsible for the graphics design. And as he writes on his website, he's versatile, curious, and mainly self-taught. And I would add that I came to know Adriano, as I said, together with the project of interviews with Phyllis Lake for Remoto. And for me, Adriana has always been a magic wizard behind the scene, a guy who helped endlessly and has been always supportive and highly caring, I would say, and loving. And really, it's my great pleasure to be with you here, Adriana.
Wow. Thank you very much for that introduction. That's very kind of you.
So, Renee, back to you. So, how is it being? How does it feel being being a guest of the Art Talks?
I'm really grateful. It's a feeling of gratitude and gratefulness. And, you, both of you, have been so supportive all these years. And as a young man, I was highly sensitive to any critical comment about anything. I was very touchy. And as I matured, hopefully, I started to learn to appreciate critical feedback. And you have been two people on which I could blindly rely, giving me very critical feedback. And it was easy for me to accept because I knew that you were coming from a caring, from a loving spot. So to be here today together with the two of you is a great sense of gratitude.
Wow, thanks, Renee. Yeah, I would say that I feel the same, and it brings me to this subject of our conversation, the value. Actually, the value, the source of the topic was was Adriano, and before I ask you, Adriana, like why, why have you, why have you been talking about the value when we were thinking of having this art talk together? I would say that this that the gratitude, Renee, that you talked about was actually this kind of because value for me, when you evaluate something, it's kind of exchange. Yeah, you take something and you give something back. So the value for me of, I think, of the whole of my being here, and maybe not just here, but being part of this project, is really a huge sense of gratitude for what's been going on, both in the relationship, like in our team work, and also in the for the project itself, and the fruits that it's bringing to the world. So yeah, it's so Adriano, and still I do have this question. You don't have to, if you don't feel like elaborating it, it's okay. But still, you were talking. You were the one who was talking about the value. So why?
For being honest, if I remember right, I was just using the wrong word in that email. Not the wrong word, but it was not the not, let's say, the right in the right direction. I was much more talking about a form of art talk, about which direction it was heading. and then you two were taking that word value immediately and were putting something into that word, which, for being honest, I don't know with what background you have taken that word value. Maybe I have, as it happens sometimes, I've given that word as a keyword, and then you put something into that word, which I wasn't aware of.
Mhm.
And I'm now pretty curious about what you have seen in that word.
Thanks, thanks, Adriano. It's actually, yeah, like like throwing some feather into the water, and it starts going with the stream. Yeah, I think it's also part of the teamwork that that is happening when like nourishing one another with the
Mm.
even with this spontaneous spontaneous um, remarks. Um, and still, for you, Adriana, what is the value of the art talk? Like, is there any
There is for sure, but
art talk project?
I
Yeah.
don't have the same background as René has for sure. Because in the beginning we were not on the same plate, let's say, what the R means. The R, if the R means Reiki, if the R means reconciliation, if the R means René, I think it means all three of these keywords, but I think it has a value. It has a value because in the meantime there are, if I'm not wrong, about 50 art talks. I think no, that's right, about 50 art talks, and that brought to us a very broad range of people and opinions, and that was very interesting. That was very interesting, and only for this it has its value, just for this. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Um, do you have a favorite one,
No.
Adriana?
No.
Yeah, I have a few.
You have a few. Okay.
Yeah, I have a few. Yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. And Renee, back to you. What is the value for you? But for you, yes, Renee, of this project. And I know that it's not the only one of yours. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that the email exchange where Adriano used the expression value was dealing with the question, how are we going to go into the future? Now I will take a sabbatical over summer 2023, and the question is, how will we continue in the fall? So obviously, um, desperately needing critical feedback and an objective um, analysis. Um, the question arose: we are producing every 3 weeks for 3 years an art talk um, at quite a significant effort. What's the value of it? So in that context, and also how many people are actually watching it, how many people are actually switching on the translations. One of the trademarks of the art talks has been that it has been translated in many languages. Is it worthwhile our effort to achieve the objective? And what is the objective? So the value of the art talks to me has been, like Adrian just said, presenting such a broad offer from interesting people with interesting views. And we were able to talk in a spirit of agreeing to disagree with each other. That in itself has a reconciling effort, that with presenting so many people with different opinions, the viewer, who quite understandably and naturally has his own preconceived opinions, will be confronted almost with an opinion very alien to his worldview. And because of the way it is presented, he will open his own mind and say, or she will open their mind and say, wow, that's an interesting point of view. I never thought about it like that. So it's maybe not a coincidence that just a week ago, I received an email from a person who said, I did Reiki some 6 years ago, and I was quite discouraged when I saw how many dissonances, how many disharmonies are on the internet, and how many different opinions. And I was about to let go of my Reiki practice because I saw so many people fighting with each other. And then I came across the art talks, and I started to see these different peoples, and this motivated me again to practice Reiki. So this was only a week ago, and this is representative for the value of the art talks and the reconciliation project as a whole.
Wow, that's amazing what you're talking about. Yeah.
Well, if I may add, to go a step further, and that person volunteered to translate the videos, and even going back into past videos into her mother tongue. So it wasn't just kind words spoken, it was actually a deep, profound commitment of time and energy in the here and now and for the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, yeah, for me too, it's like when like being an audience, being like representing also an audience of the art talk. I would say that both the diversity of people who were taking part in the art talks, and also my more intimate touch or intimate encounter with the art talk as a translator. It had a very big value, just as my encounter with the interviews of Phyllis as a translator had a very big impact on my Reiki practice and my Reiki path. And same thing here. It was kind of a continuation, with meeting people, discovering new horizons, and agreeing to disagree. Absolutely. I think this motto was also very valuable for me. Uh, right.
You know,
So
I was, sorry for interrupting, I was
yeah,
recently at a political economic meeting in Zurich, and the people spoke about the future of political and economic developments globally. And one thing came out very clearly, that we, humanity, only have a chance if we're starting to make an effort of realizing whatever I say and think is the product of my own biases, and the person I'm dealing with is speaking likewise, and both have a value whether I agree with the opinion or not. So this is basically a matter of consciousness or like Bruce Springsteen said in one of the art talks, that it's a sign of maturity if we can hold two contradictory thoughts in our own mind at the same time. And I think that the value of the art talks very strongly is presenting exactly this point. So hopefully it's actually a contribution to consciousness, specified way. Sorry, I took the word there. You were about to say something.
No, it's just it's very also very valuable for the topic, for what we're discussing. This conversation, for me at least, it's a kind of like a retrospective, on what has been done. And I know that since you are René, going for a sabbatical, one of the questions is whether to continue with the project, and if yes, so in which form. And I'm not going to ask this question now, but I would like to ask actually both of you about the feeling, like the gut feeling that you have now regarding what's of this, like kind of, this is a kind of a transition moment. um, um, what's next? Yeah. So Adriana, any gut feelings?
Probably yesterday I was thinking about this topic, and I was listening to myself, to my own gut. What is my feeling about the future of art talks of the project? Let's not mix the project Reiki Constellation with the art talks. What's the future of the art talks? And I don't have an answer. For being honest, I don't have. If René takes a sabbatical, perhaps this is a sabbatical also for me. I'm just staying here in Switzerland, but it takes some time. It takes some time to think about, to get a feeling of it, because we both know that sometimes it was encouraging and sometimes it was frustrating, because we didn't get that feedback, we didn't get that viewers which we were anticipating. But let's put that aside and taking a sabbatical, and we have to see after. I can't answer you that right now.
Yeah, I was not looking for the answer. Yeah, it's René?
Well, I think that in the words of Adriano, there was, I'm tempted to say as usual, always a high degree of wisdom. Because he mentioned René is going on a sabbatical, and that gives me time for a timeout too. And this is actually true for everyone. It's true for the sponsors. It's true for the guests who have been invited and would be in future invited to the art talks. And you, Inna, used the word transition. So yes, and we don't know the answer. My gut feeling today is that something new is coming out of this. I don't know what. Maybe the viewers of this video, maybe, when I say the team around Reiki Conciliation, who is the team? Yes, at the very core is particularly Adriano and I. And you have, particularly with the art talks, come into it in an advisory kind of consultant role, very powerfully, for which I'm so grateful. But it's, of course, many more people, and the translators. Again, this was said earlier on by you in translating the art talks. Every so often and quite regularly, translators come back to me and say, "This is amazing. You guys spoke exactly about the kind of topic which is important in my life right now. And I found answers in it." So they're part of the future of this project as well. They're going through transition as well. And it's amazing that this sabbatical, which I had dreamed of and planned for a number of years, is coming this summer, and it seems to be so timely. So my gut feeling today, to answer your question again, is I don't know the outcome. I don't know how it will look in September, October, but I do feel today, this summer 23 is going to catalyze some new insights, and it will probably be something new, even if it is dressed in the old robes, in the same makeup, but underneath it all, there will be a transition, maybe even a metamorphosis.
Whoa.
And
Looking
it's
forward.
right, and it's the right time for that. No, it's probably right now.
Why do you say that?
No, just because sometimes we know, I don't know why, I don't know how, but I think it's right. It's right time for that. Even if I don't know the outcome, I know it's going to become. I don't know what happens, but it's the right time for it.
I so agree with you, Adriano, and I personally, of course, I've had at the end of April this what I call involuntary medical experiment. A cerebral hemorrhage. That's the expression the doctors use for describing what I experienced. And thanks God I came out of it without any of the symptoms often associated with something like that. So this to me is like a signal from universe or God or I don't know, which says the timing of this timeout is perfect now also, because for me this medical issue very much projected the question into the foreground of all of my perception, not just my thinking, also my feelings. What is really important to you, Renee? What are your priorities? And where are you going with reconciliation? What's important about reconciliation? And reconciliation within the Reiki community is great. And we can ask ourselves, maybe that has been achieved to a great extent, because to some extent it will continue to give cause for new reconciliation. That's how life works. But have we set the framework that the community is able to agree to disagree in future, and it doesn't need so much focus on reconciliation within the Reiki community? But reconciliation is personal anyhow, so it needs to be transponded, and that was one of my visionary hopes. It needs to go beyond the Reiki community, into the families, into nations. If it goes into politics, into nations, we have a war in Europe. Let's not forget that. If we can have a movement, by example, within our community, which gives cause and raises hope that reconciliation is possible elsewhere, it's only half a joke when I say this movement should deserve the Peace Nobel Prize eventually. So I think that come October, all of us will have an inkling whether we need to do more within our community, what we need to do more within our community, how to refurbish, refill the vessel Art Talk, or how can we bring the reconciliation beyond our community into the world. So I'm leaving for this summer filled with this kind of musings and ponderings, and I'm so excited to wait and see what comes my way.
Yeah. And I'm thinking of when you were talking, I was thinking of it really feels like, for me at least, it feels like the seed of this like a timeout or a break for rethinking, for reflecting, and probably reconciling. Probably could it be that this seed would be like would not have just this local Renes or Renes and Adrianos, or Renes and Adrianos and Inas, um, um, like an opportunity, but the opportunity for the bigger scope and bigger space.
And particularly for the team around Reconciliation, which, as I said, includes the translators. You know, there are more than 40 people who in the last 3 years have helped us. So that's a big group of people. But it's also the sponsors, it's the guests, and many other people who are involved one way or another, not least, for example, my wife, who supports me in all of this work also. And not least Adriano's partner, who is also supporting Adriano with what he is contributing to Reconciliation. So it's more than just the three of us.
Yeah, so it looks like this is like a moment to wish you, Rene, a really wonderful journey in this sabbatical. And I think we'll be like, kind of, for every one of us will be part of this journey, maybe even without being in touch. Adriano, I think we are before we are like closing this session. Something that you would like to say? How do you feel?
Oh, I think the words we were using right now in the end, now the optimistic words, which is perfectly connected to the expression, the value, because the optimistic view, the curiosity, what happens now, it's the right time, that is the perfect value for me. And that closes for me also in a very optimistic way now, this session.
Yeah, thank you. Rene, still, like, as a guest, your your farewell words to the audience who is going for the sabbatical. To
I was just very touched by what Adriano just said. So there's little I can add to that. I can, of course, personally say goodbye to everyone and thank you for everything. And I'm looking forward to reconnecting in the future. So other than that, I just want to follow in this, in the nice feeling brought up by Adria just now.
All right. So here we are, Renee and Adriano and me, and thank you very, very much for this art talk. And yeah, we're looking forward for for what comes next.
Thank
You're
you very
welcome.
much.
Thank you, Ina.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.